Oh my gosh, Michele, it is like the best sight right now in front of me. I know people can't see this, but you were a client of mine back in 2021, and seeing you and where you're at today, like I'm just so overflowing with just joy for you. Thank you for being here and doing this talk with me.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I mean, through my whole journey and following you on social media, like you have been such a crucial part. So the fact that like we're reconnecting today in such a time of like such happiness gives me like the chills. So just thank you
Thank
for being
you.
there through everything.
Oh
So
my gosh.
excited to catch up today for sure.
Yes, this is our catch up and everyone gets to hear the latest. We started chatting back in November of 2021.
Wow.
And I was reviewing notes from way back when. And I know you're very open, and thank you for just being vulnerable with me today and sharing where you were and where you're at today. Cause I think so many can relate. And you and I both being quote older, right, in our years, like I was 40 when I gave birth to my daughter. And when you reached out to me, you were 41.
Yeah.
And you had shared that your embryo transfer hadn't worked at that point, and you had transferred one embryo, and you had also gone through an IUI. And I'll let you kind of share and bring us, share a bit of your story of where you were, but feeling disappointed and hopeless were some of the descriptors of what you shared with me.
Absolutely.
Then.
Yeah. So when I came to you, and I will say I've always been a spiritual person, but my spiritual practice and world was always kind of separate from fertility. Like I was in the fertility zone and like going full steam ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I was so confident when before I met you, I had a egg retrieval, my second egg retrieval, and then actually fertilized even eggs I froze from over a year past. So I had like two batches basically fertilized. And of those batches, I had two PGT tested embryos that I thought for sure, once I heard that number two, I'm like, oh my goodness, I could not believe I have the potential of having like two. And I knew the sex, so they were two boys.
Mm-hmm.
And when I reached out to you, it was after the first transfer failed. So I remember thinking like, what? Everyone I know, or majority of everyone I know, that first transfer of a PGT tested embryo like works. And I literally was devastated. I did not expect it. I was super positive, like thinking it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided soon after to like tap into just looking into the spiritual side of it all. And literally, you were the first expert that I reached out to. I am in New York. We know you're in Colorado. We had no connection, like no mutual friends. This was like me doing my own research, and something made me gravitate towards you. And I'm like, I need to like do something different in my journey. And I reached out to you right away. Like that's how we built the connection. We had our first little intro call, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I'm so grateful you reached out. And right away on our first connection call, I was like, yeah, she's my ideal person I would love to help on this path. And you were so open and just available. And that's honestly a big part of what it takes,
Yes.
being open to receive. And gosh, what a path, what a journey. I mean, you shared with me the kind of work you were doing. Do you want to share a bit of that kind of work? I know it was really stressful for you at the time going through fertility treatments.
Yes. So I was always into fitness like my whole life, the past 20 years, even. So I've been in like the corporate world for 20 years, approximately. Fitness was always my go-to, my stress relief. So I was continuing to do that through all of my fertility stuff. Maybe not in excess or like crazy soul cycle classes that I enjoy as much, but like walking, especially. So I always tried to take care of me that way physically. But I was doing acupuncture. I signed up for acupuncture. I was doing more Reiki sessions with professionals. So I was really trying, and I tried to incorporate meditation. Now, I would be a liar if I said I was incorporating every day, and that's still a struggle for me to incorporate every day, but I was trying all the things out there.
Yeah.
And I also, found a therapist through this journey and things like that. So I was super open to just trying something different. and not just relying on like my doctor and, what else
Mm-hmm.
is out there. Cause I felt like he and I did everything we possibly could at that point. I
Mm-hmm.
had one embryo left by the time I met you. And it seemed like every month there was something coming up. There was some sort of issue, whether it was the doctor wasn't available or my lining wasn't perfect. One thing led to another, and my next transfer actually happened in February.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a little obviously nervous about it going into it this time because of my experience from a few months prior, but just tried to stay positive. I remember we were on a family vacation when I had to find a hospital to get blood work to
Mm-hmm.
confirm data, and it was negative. So I never tested with pregnancy tests or anything like that before, so it was
Mm-hmm.
really a surprise. And again,
Mm-hmm.
like totally gut wrenching, but at least I had that kind of feeling like I did before, and I knew it was time to like recalibrate. I
Mm-hmm.
will say that all the work I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
I think we even talked about Abraham Hicks many
Yeah.
times too,
Mm-hmm.
like listening to podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
just truly believing that it was going to happen for me kept me
Yeah.
going.
And
Like
all the
truly believe it.
signs, the
Yes.
signs and the symbols
The
and the
signs,
dimes
the
and the
symbols. Yes.
pennies.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh my
So,
gosh. What were some of those things that helped you kind of stay in that space?
so definitely the Abraham Hicks podcast. Now I still will go on my walks and try to listen, but for some reason it's like deactivated on podcasts, which I'm super annoyed about. But like you could still find them all on YouTube. There's
Oh,
plenty
right,
on
right, right.
motherhood and pregnancy. So that's been great. Even even in my journey now, like just going on walks and like walks in nature.
Mm-hmm.
You and I would talk about
Mm-hmm.
this a lot. So in New York, the weather's not so great right now, but there are days where it's been really warm, and I will try make every effort to get outside. But in the summer, like beach walks,
Yeah.
those were my truly Zen moments to like disconnect and kind of tap into like all that's coming.
Yeah, you were just so open and it was so easy working with you. And there were a lot of like big life changes I remember happening as you're come
That's
on.
right. How
So
can we forget?
you're working in a stressful HR director type position at the time. And I think you're still in that position, right?
Yes. Yes.
And just believing this is all going to happen for you and also looking for a house. And you were also not engaged at that time. You remember you were, there was
Right.
just so many
Well,
exciting things like happening in your life that were like brewing and coming.
it happened so fast. So we made the call to like get married New Year's Eve, like at a courthouse last December. So it was like soon after I met you.
Mm-hmm.
We had our wedding with family and friends, like a small little celebration in February 12th. So we consider that to be our wedding day.
I love it.
But yeah, we've been also house searching since when I met you, and we
Yeah.
actually only found our house and closed this past September. So that took a little while too. But the
Yeah.
year of 2022 was like the most amazing year, and it started not so amazing. So,
Yeah.
in February, like, yes, we were married and it's great, but like I have known since I've been a little kid that this is what I've wanted. Like I've wanted to be a mom. I will get there however I can.
Yeah.
But after that second failed transfer, I literally I knew I had to just like pick myself back up and try
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave myself in my head like another 2 retrievals to do it. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't get to that point, but like I don't have to worry about that fortunately right now. But I in my head was like, and I was told by a lot of my fertility friends who have struggled as well, that if you feel the need to like still keep going or the want, the desire, like
Yeah.
keep at it.
Yeah. And
So
only
that's
you
what,
know that for yourself. Yeah. And how
yeah.
many eggs did you get then after that next retrieval? Remind me.
So the next retrieval, and the doctor did a boatload of different things, by the way.
Mm.
Um, Going into it, I had 9 eggs, so it was the most eggs retrieved that I've had. And then actually of those 9, 5 made it to embryo stage,
Mhm.
and only 1 came out as PGT tested.
Healthy tested. Okay. And do you want to share where you're at today?
Yeah. And today, so that was implanted 2 days after my birthday, my 42nd birthday. I actually keep going back to the little video I recorded with my doctor. I love that video because he literally
Oh,
just says, and here's like that little thing of liquid, and it's just like, and he
oh,
says good luck, and like that's it. And that was the only transfer I actually recorded.
wow.
Um, yeah, so super special. Anyway, so that was June 6th, and I actually started testing with pregnancy tests in the
Mhm.
third, after the third transfer, and saw those positives coming pretty quickly. This time around, I needed to know. I didn't want to wait 2 weeks. I was
Right.
ready to just like find out.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yes, so I am actually 33 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
So the transfer worked. It worked.
It's
And it's
just
another little boy.
incredible. A
Yes.
little boy.
Hmm.
Witnessing your transformation, both like exteriorly seeing you grow and then just the internal growth and the shifts, like that is just one of the best gifts as a coach to be a part of that and walk alongside that with you. I mean, it's like a dream to have this conversation,
It is. It
like,
is. Like, and I know you always stayed so positive for me, and that's why I will never forget, whether it was friends or family, like, you have those supporters that like will not
mhm,
let you give up. And you were one of those people where you were
mhm,
always recommending a success story or like another expert like that I can reach out to. It wasn't
mhm,
all about just coming from you, right? And the resources you had. You wanted to share like your knowledge too. So that like meant the world to me because it connected me
mhm.
to others that I wouldn't necessarily have met, you know?
Well, thank you for that. I'm so happy that you received that, just suggested people that I would encourage you to reach out to. And you did. And you took that upon yourself to make a call or book a session. And this is really a team effort, right? Growing a
Yes, it
baby.
takes a
It
village.
takes a village.
Yes.
And your mantra, I love, we talked about this a lot. If I can share it with you and share it with the audience, I focus on the love that's around me and expect miracles.
Yep. I remember that. Yes. Yes.
I
It's
mean,
that's me though. Like that's my MO in life. I mean, like you said, Lisa, yes, I'm still in a like high demand corporate job.
mhm.
I try to incorporate that positivity at all times. It's not always easy in the
Oh yeah.
workplace or in
Oh
personal,
yeah.
like relationships. Like you and I talk
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
relationships not always being easy and things like
Right.
that. But I truly believe I was brought into this world to do some like special things and make the world a better place. So I'm just trying to like be the best version of myself, is
You
what I'll say.
are.
You
You
know?
are. Oh my gosh. So a lot of the things I was just glancing over, things that we had covered, and just you had a phrase, be cool. Can you share with the audience about that? I love
I get that from my friend Rachel that I
Yeah.
used to work with, and she would say it all the time, like just be cool. Like there's so many times you want to freak out or like call a girlfriend, and that's great, and that's like what girlfriends and family members are there for. But
Yeah.
sometimes, you don't want to always go running to your husband or your boyfriend or your
Mhm.
boss or like your coworkers. Like you have to just sometimes like play it cool, but like vent to the people that will really always have your back, you know?
Yeah, but let it be easy, like a space of just, yeah, okay, I'm not going to force anything. I think you really shifted into that space of like I talk about riding the wave of this kind of just up and down, like a lot that we don't have control over, but I can control how I'm going to respond to certain situations and setbacks. And you were be cool. You were just be cool. I'm cool.
100, and I'm glad you bring it up because
Mm,
honestly, since we met, it wasn't all positive, like I said.
mhm.
But any sort of setback I knew was part of the journey. I'm like, I will get there. I became
Yeah.
that determined where I was like, okay, like it just wasn't meant to be. Maybe there was something wrong with that embryo. Like, you know, this is gonna happen. And I
Mhm.
truly believed it. So
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. Well, and you shared with me like how differently you felt, I think, this go round versus some of the other rounds that you'd experienced. I mean, would you say you were more of like a type A, I don't want to say control, you know,
Yes. Type A all the way, my husband will.
all the way.
confirm that. Yes.
But you kind of shifted into this other space of, peace within
Yes.
and knowing that you were doing everything you could do. That's a great place to get to, isn't it?
It's such a great place. And just to feel that and be in that zone. I remember that first pregnancy test I took, and I was a little crazy. And again, like, I'm like, you know what? Last round, I didn't test and it was negative, but
Yeah.
and my beta ended up negative. I'm gonna like change things up. So I was always willing to like change things up. And this time I think it was like 4 days after the transfer, or 5 days, I was already testing. Now, I don't encourage everyone to do that because everyone has their own preference, and you will see many people have different views. But for me, it worked, and it just like kind of kept me going. But yeah, once you test, you kind of become that serial tester. So,
I chose not to go down that path, but I know many, many do.
So to each his own, and like I said, every round it was different, but I kind of just felt like I knew once I saw that first positive, I'm like, I've got this. Like, I was reaching out to, friends and family and resources I've used, just like to say a little extra prayer, to make sure like I had everyone like thinking of me and putting the good energy out there. And yeah.
I love it. And yeah, just a softening. I remember us having these conversations that it was just kind of like that space of receiving to soften through this, because it can be such this ride of doing and trying it all. And I remember just how you responded in a way that was really one of more softening.
Yes. I remember when I met you, I feel like I was a little bitter. I was a little like, although I've always tried to be like positive and whatnot, I'm not a negative person by nature. I was just so upset and hurt, like in disbelief that it didn't work, and like why, and I'm healthy. And even though I'm older, like on paper, everything looked perfect. Why didn't it work? I was more just like still in that zone.
Yeah.
And I had to get away. I had to, get out of my own way.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, you're so honest. You're so here. I'm here for it. And do you believe, like right before our call, you were sharing with me where you're at, and like, can you see it all happening and how that happened for this reason, and how it's all unfolded maybe in the most beautiful way?
Yes. So right now, I'm actually 33 weeks. I still, and what I was sharing with you is just so true and real and raw. And I'm sure many people that may listen or follow you can appreciate this. But I still wake up every morning, even though everything looks great, testing wise and whatnot. Everything on paper is perfect. I still wake up in disbelief I'm pregnant. Like, there's still that minute that you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. Because I remember back in the day and going through this journey, I would have dreams where you're pregnant and you're like, oh my gosh, oh, but I just got my period. Oh my gosh, but my, transfer just failed. And it's just, that's all I'll say is, and I've read about this from many others who have struggled, that until that is in your arms, like it's sort of normal to feel this way. Of course, the remainder of the day, no matter what's irritating me, what's making me mad, I will always revert back to like the best thing in the whole entire world's happening to you. So like chill out and cool off, like I always try to come back to baby and like this little miracle that's on its way. But yeah, it's a struggle. Like I think, the anxiety through even the first trimester and getting to that 12-week point, and then the anatomy scan, there's always like a hurdle. I think the anxiety with is baby okay has definitely diminished at this point. Now it's more like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm going to be like in a hospital in a matter of weeks type of anxiety. Totally different. Yeah.
I'm just so excited for you.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's just so amazing. And how's your husband through all of this?
So he has 2 kids from his first marriage. They're 12 and 13. So they're older and they're girls.
Yeah.
And he, even though he's like a true alpha male, is like, you know what? I wish we were having a girl. I'm such a good girl dad. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're going to be the best boy dad that like ever
Oh,
existed, from like your fishing and hunting. Like, come
yeah.
on. Don't be crazy. But I think what's
Mm,
interesting with him is, he's excited, but he's one that like, I mean, again, he's not super
mm,
spiritual and I'm like the
mm,
complete opposite. And so I see it even with like life events. He will kind of keep it to himself. I'm sure until the
mm.
baby's here, he's
Yeah.
not gonna like be as excited as I am. Like it's just he's almost like disconnected from it. Like in
Okay.
fact, I had to get him on board to like commit to painting the baby room next week because I'm
Oh,
like, time is ticking. Like we have everything here from my baby shower, like everything's ready to go. I want to decorate before I'm like too tired. So
yeah.
he's committed to doing it next week. So he's been okay. I will say
Mhm.
that sometimes, and you know me, I'll be like as real as possible.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not the most supportive, like while he's an amazing guy,
Yeah.
he's not like very emotional.
Gotcha.
Um,
Mhm.
so sometimes, like if I'm emotional or having a rough day or something makes me cry, and it could be something so silly, he'll just be like, but don't like this is what you wanted. And so sometimes it could come across a little
Yeah.
cold, but like
Yeah.
he's super supportive. I know he like obviously like wants this. I made this very clear on our date number 2 that I wanted at least one baby. So
Mhm.
I didn't pull any surprises here. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, I think every partner is going to handle this differently. Like you could read all about that on the internet. I know I have.
Yeah.
Some just don't know like how to express their support as well as others.
Well, I think a
So
lot of women can relate to that. I mean, that's sometimes a role that our girlfriends fill that sometimes our spouses can't fill, right?
correct, correct. Like
Whereas,
I'll say on Christmas, for example,
yeah.
because we just moved into our house in September. This is our first Christmas we hosted.
Hmm.
Um, 16 people over. I made everything homemade from dinner to like baking desserts and like did it all. And my
Wow.
sisters helped me clean up. And I mean, he was like, babe, like this was an amazing Christmas. This was great. But like I remember even the day later, my calves still feeling like swollen because it was just a lot, right? And we did
Yeah.
it, we took it off. But I remember him being like, well, like he just like, I
Oh,
think he was like, "So when's dinner gonna be ready?" I'm like, "Can we, get takeout or something, or can you make something?" So sometimes
yeah.
there's a little disconnect.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice to ask for what we need too, right? Like our
100%.
partners can't always read and respond to reading our minds and knowing what we need.
Yes.
So I think it takes us as women to advocate. And
Yes.
even, as we're going through fertility treatments on the way to parenthood through IVF and then beyond, like it doesn't end.
Yes.
Right.
And I think it's so true. I think he knows I'm also like a really strong individual.
Yeah.
So even through the fertility, like the egg retrievals, like all of it, like I had my moments of weakness, but like I
Mhm.
could keep myself like pretty together as long
Mhm.
as I worked out. If I had my workouts, I was like a new person. Um, so I think with this, sometimes he's just like, whoa, I haven't seen this side of
Mhm.
you this many times, or like, I haven't gone through pregnancy with him before.
Mm. Yeah.
So you just learn these different bits about you, and
Right.
it will just make us stronger, like honestly. So
I
it's
love
raw, like very raw. And so I hear it will be extremely raw when the baby's here. And that first year really tests marriages, but
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
here for it.
Here for it. Well, it's your dream come true. I mean, it's incredible. And for women that maybe are in a similar place where you used to be, just wondering, could this really happen for me? Maybe they're not even open to looking outside of themselves for support. I mean, any kind of words or guidance or things you could offer a woman who really does want to optimize this whole path?
I would say pick whatever helps you like disconnect from the real world sometimes, like whatever gives you peace, whether it's that walk, whether it's that
Hmm.
meditation, whether it's a spa treatment, like, and just staying in the zone. But one thing that really worked for me is finding like a podcast, like walks and podcasts uh,
Hmm.
that really emphasize people experiences and like people that have struggled and have gotten what they want. Like
Mm.
went a long way. So I think just hearing from other people,
Mm-hmm.
and tapping into that
Yeah.
is something I would really recommend.
And I don't think you had read my book when you booked your first call with me. I was going back to that. You hadn't read it, but
Nope.
I appreciated you sharing how that did seem to help you going through it.
So reading
That
your
mindset.
book, exactly, because that
The
was walking
mindset.
through your experience. Exactly. And then even, you know what? I was using your affirmation cards, right?
The intention cards.
The intention cards.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was using those pretty religiously too. You just had, but I remember you would talk about, because you're a writer by nature, like writing in your journal. And I'm like, you know what? Like I did that a couple times, but
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't for me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I think you just have to, the one thing I would encourage, and me being an open person, I think it's easy for me to do, but you'd be amazed how many people have struggled or have gone through something similar. And when you start talking about it, like people in the workplace where we're just talking about IVF and fertility, one of my like closest friends right now, we were on a conference call. We were not friendly at all. Like we were coworkers. We had a good
Mm-hmm.
working relationship. I mentioned something about a fertility treatment and she became one of like my closest friends within this past year. You know, you just, I would just encourage people to be a little bit more open. And again, you'd be surprised how many others have struggled and like
Mm-hmm.
what kept them going and like their success stories. I had, for example, there's a partner I work with, who's very successful. She's older. She's probably in her 50s. I believe
Mm-hmm.
she has twins.
Mm-hmm.
I think she told me she went through like 12 rounds of IVF
Oh, wow.
back in the day. And I literally was like, how did you like do that? Right. And like, so, I mean, like, I remember learning that through like, I knew that before my second transfer.
Oh my
And
God.
so once you have those kind of stories in the back of your head, you're like, okay, I can keep going.
Wow.
Like
That might be the most I've ever heard of 12.
it
Wow.
was, it was something, it could have been, it was definitely close to
Yeah.
10. So
Okay. Oh my
but,
gosh.
like such a warrior. And again, until I said something and talked about it,
Mm-hmm.
I would have never known. We would have never had that conversation. So
Wow. I'm so grateful to you for just opening up and sharing, being open to sharing your story. And you're such an example of what's possible. And, you know, each individual knows when to stop treatments, to choose a different course. And
yes,
for you, it was to keep going.
yes,
And
absolutely. I'll share a funny story. So I still have dreams about him,
Mhm.
not in a, like a sexual way or anything. But
Uh-huh.
my doctor, my
Uh-huh.
fertility doctor,
Yeah.
is like the best thing, I've ever met. But of course, after my 2 transfers, I was like, should I pick another doctor? Like, is this the right one for me?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I stayed the course, and obviously this worked out in our favor. But the first night that I actually tested, which was a few days after the transfer, one of my closest friends was out to dinner, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "I just met this fertility doctor, and he said that his name is this. Like, is this your doctor?" Because he was saying he's based out of Smithtown. It was him. They literally, like, were FaceTiming, and I showed him the positive pregnancy test. It was just so cool because he's just, like, so human and
So
normal.
you're talking to the friend who knew him?
Yeah. Well,
And
she just met him that night, and she's like, "Is
oh,
this your doctor?" And I'm like,
oh,
"Yes. Can you tell him I got a positive pregnancy test?" And what I
oh
keep
my God.
envisioning
Yeah.
is, I mean, obviously we celebrated once I graduated from the fertility clinic and
Mm-hmm.
gave him the biggest hug ever.
Oh.
But what I'm envisioning is like he went to Penn State and so did I. So we always
Mm-hmm.
had that bond. I can't
Mm-hmm.
wait to show him like the video, send him the video from the transfer or a picture from that day
Mm-hmm.
to like this baby, my little boy in like a Penn State onesie. Like
Oh
that's gonna
my
be the next
gosh.
text to him. Yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to your doctor in the clinic?
Yeah, it's Dr. San Ramon, who's
Okay.
based out of Smithtown, New York. So it's Long
Okay.
Island.
Mm-hmm.
And he's affiliated with Northwell Fertility. So I know
Okay.
that They're pretty big in the New York area, but
Awesome.
I had all of my fertility treatments done in the Manhasset lab on Long Island. So there's a
Okay.
North Well in like New York City and whatnot, but I was always working with the Long Island lab.
Oh my gosh. Well, shout out to them.
Yes, they were amazing.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled for you. Just can't
Thank
wait to
you.
follow along. And the best part of this is, a lot of my clients, we become friends and
Yes.
message each other. And I'm just so happy to see where you're at. It's such a joy. You have no idea.
Thank you so much. And what I will say is, because I've worked with, a few people where I've spent money on
Mhm.
whatever kind of services it is, because like I said, I was super open, but
Mhm.
you were one, and I will thank you, that like always felt more like a friend. So like no matter what I was dealing with, the highs, the lows, just checking in to like a post, and you would send me like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And this is like after our services completed, like you weren't
Mhm.
looking for anything. Like I truly always believed you like had my back
Right.
and were rooting for me. So I
Yes.
will never forget that. And that's why I'm like, I'll do whatever. Like I'll stay in touch and help
Wow.
spread the word.
Wow.
Um, because that goes a long way with me. It's not
Mm,
it's way more than just like business for
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Wow. Well, I am just beyond. What do I say?
I know. Well, thank
Oh,
you so much, Lisa. I
love
really
you,
appreciate it.
Michelle. Love you, girl.
Love you
Bye.
too. Okay,
Bye.
bye.